On the dark night of 8 August 1963, a Royal Mail train was traveling from Glasgow to London. One of its carriages was carrying bags filled with cash, worth nearly £67 million today. The train driver, Jack Mills, was driving the engine at speed to the darkness when suddenly a red signal light flashed at a level crossing. This was highly unusual, because at that time and location, a red signal made no sense. Still, Jack Mills immediately applied the brakes and brought the train to a halt on a deserted stretch of track. For a moment, there was complete silence. But hidden within that silence was a master plan, one that would go on to become the greatest robber of the century, the Great Train Robbery, in which the train itself was stolen. Viewers, this may sound like the plot of a movie, but in real life, criminals executed a suspense-filled plan and looted millions of pounds from Britain's government train without firing a single bullet. The story began months earlier, when a group of well-known London criminals gathered to plan a new and daring operation. Bruce Reynolds, the mastermind behind the plan, began working with a few trusted associates to design an unprecedented heist. Reynolds possessed secret information about Royal Mail, Britain's national postal service. This information came from a senior Royal Mail security officer, whose identity remains unknown to this day. The information revealed that the Glasgow-London train included a special carriage known as a high-value package, HVP, coach. On a specific day, this carriage would be carrying an unusually large amount of cash, and that was a carriage they planned to rob. Although Bruce Reynolds and his companions were experienced criminals, they had no experience robbing trains. So they brought in another London-based gang with expertise in train robberies, the infamous South Coast Raiders. Slowly, the team grew to more than 15 members. Their goal was clear: rob a government train without firing a single shot. But this was no ordinary robbery. It required months of meticulous planning. On 7 August 1963 at 6:50 p.m., the train departed from Glasgow Central Station, scheduled to arrive at London Euston at 4 a.m. the next morning. The train consisted of 12 carriages, with 72 postal workers on board, sorting mail during the journey. This train was used exclusively for transporting parcels and mail, and it was designed to distribute mail without stopping. At each station, local postal staff hung mail bags on elevated racks. As the train passed slowly through platform, on-board staff would collect the bags using hooks, while simultaneously dropping off outgoing mail, allowing distribution without stopping. The HVP carriage had not yet been attached to the train. It was safely parked at Noon Valley Railway Station. These HVP carriages carried large sums of cash, primarily money orders sent between cities. In 1960, the Post Office Investigation Branch had ordered the installation of security alarm systems in HVP carriages. By 1961, 3 such carriages were upgraded, while older ones without alarms were kept in reserve. On the day of the robbery, however, all alarm-equipped HVP carriages were out of service. As a result, a reserve carriage, M3024M, with no security system at all, was used. This critical detail was leaked to the robbers by the Royal Mail insider. When the train reached Noon Valley, the HVP carriage was attached second behind the engine, another vital tip the robbers had received. Normally, an HVP carriage carried around £300,000. But because the previous week had been a bank holiday weekend, the carriage now held nearly £3 million in cash, 12 times the usual amount. 2 extraordinary coincidences on the same day. No security alarm. A massive amount of cash. But for the robbers, this was no coincidence. They had planned for months. As night fell, 58-year-old Jack Mills drove the train toward London. Meanwhile, the robbers lay hidden in bushes near the tracks, waiting. At around 3 a.m. on 8 August, one gang member tampered with the Sears crossing signal. He blocked the green light with a glove and powered the red light using a battery. When the train approached the crossing, Jack Mills was stunned to see the red signal. Royal Mail trains were never stopped here. Still, he applied the brakes. Silence fell again. The assistant driver, known as the second man, stepped off the train to use the trackside telephone. He discovered the phone line had been cut part of the robbers' plan. As he turned back, robbers emerged from the bushes and overpowered him. Others climbed onto the engine from both sides. When Jack Mills resisted, one robber struck him on the head with an iron rod, knocking him unconscious in his seat. At the same time, other gang members detached the engine and first two carriages from the rest of the train. Their plan was to move the train itself. About 1 kilometer away was Berdego Bridge, where their truck was waiting. They had brought along a retired train driver, but he panicked when he saw the modern engine. He had never operated one like it. Left with no choice, they revived Jack Mills and forced him to drive the train to Berdego Bridge. Once there, they broke into the HVP carriage, injured 5 staff members, tied them face down with ropes, and began loading the money. Inside were 128 cash-filled sacks, weighing over 2.5 tons, filled with £1 notes, £5 notes, and 10-shilling notes. They had 15 minutes. Forming a human chain, they loaded 120 sacks into the truck, leaving 8 behind due to time constraints. The robbery was flawless, except for one fatal mistake. Before leaving, a robber warned the tied-up staff not to move for 30 minutes or they would be killed. The gang escaped using an Austin Lodestar truck and 2 Land Rovers, all displaying the same fake license plate, BMG 757. At 4:30 a.m., they reached their hideout, a farmhouse near the village of Oakley, about 43 kilometers away. They monitored police radio traffic on VHF radios and celebrated, playing Monopoly with real banknotes. Their joy was short-lived. Police soon announced a 50-kilometer search radius, deduced from the 30-minute delay warning given to the staff. Panicked, the gang moved up their escape plan and split the money, about £2.5 million total. Each member received roughly £150,000, an enormous sum at the time. They wiped fingerprints on the hideout and hired someone to burn it down, but he fled with the money instead. Police launched a massive manhunt. A neighbor reported suspicious activity, leading police to raid the farmhouse. Evidence was everywhere: empty sacks, mail, a repainted truck, and fingerprints on a Monopoly board. Those fingerprints matched criminal records at Scotland Yard. Within days, 14 of the 16 robbers were arrested. Only 2 escaped: the replacement train driver, the mysterious Royal Mail insider, never identified to this day. The court labeled it the robbery of the century, sentencing most gang members to 30 years in prison. Berdego Bridge became known as Train Robbers Bridge, a name it still carries. Jack Mills never worked again due to his injuries and died 7 years later from trauma. We hope you enjoyed the story. Thank you for your love and support. See you in the next amazing video.